Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast. This is the NFC West season preview, and I'm your host Keith McGinty. I'm joined again tonight by some fantastic crew members and some new crew members who have been helping set things right in the West. Before we go west, I'd like to introduce them to you. First up, we have Sai, all the way in Hamilton. Sai, how are you?
Great. I'm happy to be here. This is the discussion I've been looking forward to all day. So, yeah, thank you.
I think you're going to vibe in this one, Sai. Sai, we've got this one.
Of rhymes.
Our very own little golden nugget himself, we've got Ian Dugan.
Evening all, yep, representing the Golden State, San Francisco. Yeah, Santa Clara in the house. Here we go.
Santa Clara in the house. And filling in for the Rams, because I was just such a big fan of Sean McVay, it's Studs. Hi, Studs.
I said, what's not I love about Sean McVay? We need to get him back on Hard Knocks to get him top off and in the
pool. Because they are such a garbage fire, and we've just got to ignore the Arizona Cardinals just now. What we'll hopefully do is get our good friend Stu, the Celtic Cardinal, who was going to come on and basically tell us how we're all wrong, and it's actually going to be an amazing year for the Cardinals this year. But unfortunately, he's a wee bit poorly just now. So get well soon, Stu. Hopefully hear from you soon.
It must be
podcast.
Quite exciting for their fan base when the highlights are let's hope our QB comes back in enough time so that we can then trade him, and let's just sew up that number one pick. It's a hell of a fall from grace, but good luck with your tanking Cardinals. We'll see you at the draft next year.
As I said, we'll leave the Capitals. I think it would be wrong for us to kick the puck while it's down. So we'll leave them just out, and we'll head straight to the City of Angels for the LA Rams. And Studs, you've got this one. What can you tell us about the Rams? How's their off-season been?
Yeah, I think off-season wise, you're looking at obviously the high-profile one. They had a couple of high-profile outgoings. You had Jalen Ramsey to the Miami Dolphins in a trade, and then one Sai and yourself, I'm sure, will be happy about Bobby Wagner returning back up the coast to Seattle. I must admit, it felt kind of wrong actually seeing him in a Rams jersey after seeing him playing for the Seahawks so long.
It should never have happened.
Yeah, but he got a good payday in LA, and then now he's back up to see what kind of damage he can cause in Seattle. So I think that'll be interesting. And then one for Brian. So Brian's Baker Mayfield, he left the Rams as well. So just one for Brian in there.
God, yeah, I kind of forget that Baker was there, and he was the Messiah of half a game there, wasn't he?
Literally showed up on something like a Wednesday and won the game on the Saturday or something like that. So surely Sean McVay's playbook can't really be that hard, can it? If Baker Mayfield can get it, I'm sure we could all get it. Sorry, that's the other one they lost was outside linebacker. Floyd as well. That's I think so. You can see that they've lost quite a few pieces on their defensive side, and again they kind of tried to sort of rebuild certainly through the draft. They had a couple of incomings. The ones I'd kind of noted on as part of the Ramsey trade, they got a tight end in, Hunter Long from the Dolphins, who I'll be honest, I've never heard of, other than the fact that it was in part of that Ramsey trade. One that I'm familiar with, they brought in Demarcus Robinson, former wide receiver of the Chiefs. I think he was at the Ravens last year, I want to say. And then they re-signed Josh Johnson, who was a safety that left to go to the Browns, and he's now back in LA again. So yeah, not many high-profile ones I would suggest in there.
Fantastic. What about incomings they brought in?
Sorry, those last three, they were incomings.
Apologies. I meant the draft.
The
How did they do in the draft?
When I had a quick look at this, and some of the kind of pundits were giving them a draft grade of A-/B. Now, I'd kind of mentioned on our chat before we kind of went live, they had 14 picks all in the draft, so I'm not going to bore you to tears and go through every single one of them. I'll pick a kind of couple of ones that I've sort of noted that I think a lot of people had their first pick, which was in the second round of the guard Steve Avila, is quite a good pickup for them. Again, they're obviously want to protect Matt Stafford as best they can, because if you keep him upright, we know the kind of damage he can do. But if he's running for his life like he used to in Detroit, then he's going to just end up injured again, and that's not what they want. The other one that I think a lot of people absolutely love, and I think he done quite well in the preseason game, was one that we probably hoped would land at the Cowboys, and Stetson Bennett, just purely for that name. I know Dan was a fan of him, to be honest, landing at the Cowboys. And there was two other ones kind of jumped out at me. One of the last pick in the 5th round, I think, has been getting a bit of camp hype, and Puka Nacua.
Yep.
He's a name that's cropped up in camp. And then one purely from a personal perspective, out of my favourite college team, Nebraska, they picked up outside linebacker O'Shawn Mattis. I know nothing about him other than the fact he went to Nebraska, so I don't know how good he is, to be perfectly honest. But I like the Nebraska Cornhuskers, so I always like to see where those players land. But a lot of rebuilding, certainly. It's no longer a case of F them draft picks in LA. It's very much let's build those draft picks.
Yeah, Puka Nacua certainly looked lively in the game at the weekend. I saw a wee bit of it, and a really, really good catch from him in the highlights as well. What about where do you start? Where do the Rams really need to improve for the season then? How are they going to show success?
I think they're quite clearly shown that it's a rebuilding season for them. Obviously, they lost Cooper Kupp, they lost Matt Stafford for most of last year. So I think if they can keep those two healthy, then I think they'll always be in and around games. But certainly the pieces they've lost in defence, I think are going to show them up. I think that defence is, I mean, you lose Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, and Floyd. Your defence is significantly weaker. And it's whether the pieces they've picked up in the draft can replace those guys. And I mean, you're probably talking, well, certainly Bobby Wagner's a Hall of Famer. Ramsey's a perennial Pro Bowler. And Floyd showed flashes of how good a player he was as well. So you lose those three pieces in your defence, and probably three leaders as well in your changing room. You're probably looking at every game's going to probably have to be a shootout. And over the season, that's, unless you're the Minnesota Vikings last year, it's not really sustainable to be in shootouts and win close games all the time.
Absolutely. Who is your prediction that's going to rise above it all, though, and going to crush this season for the LA Rams?
Again, Cooper Kupp's your obvious one, right? So if he's healthy, then he is their star man, and there's no doubt about it. But for me, I would like to see a guy that's got a relationship like Ross and Rachel with his head coach. They're either on again, off again type thing. So I'm going to say Cam Akers. I think if he can take a jump, I think he showed at the end of last year when he fell back in with McVay that he was a good player, talented player. And then obviously there's been a big spotlight in running backs this year, so I think he's going to want to really show off his talents.
Fantastic. I think Akers kind of he's went a wee bit quiet. He's kind of going under the radar a wee bit, so you can see if he can get back into team, get back in love with Sean McVay. Then it could be a big year for him and the Rams. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Studs. I was
going to say just very briefly on the schedule, what I will say is their first 5 games are pretty tough for these guys. I could actually see them going 1-4 at the start of the season. You've got Seahawks, 49ers, Bengals, Colts, and Eagles. I mean, that's a rough start. Colts, you really don't know what they're going to get, but you're looking at, what's that, four playoff teams last year. So it's certainly could be a very rough start if you're a Rams fan.
Fantastic. I thought that was nice of you giving them a win in the game against the 49ers. That's something kind of you. And that's where we're heading now. As I said, we're heading to Santa Clara, and a wee bit of sunshine there for yourself, Ian. I hope you've got the Factor 50 on.
I know, that's exactly it. Because when you're bald, it's just extra skin. Just got to, the head, the face doesn't end here. It's the whole thing. So yeah, you're out in that Santa Clara sunshine. So I guess the off season for the 49ers has been a really interesting one. I think we went into free agency assuming that we wouldn't do anything, and then we signed Javon Hargrave. You're like, holy shit! So essentially, the number one defense, and then you go and add in Hargrave. So that's a significant move. I guess on the defense, the other sort of it's not really been a saga, but Bosa is, we're talking earlier on. He's sitting out at the minute. Him and Chris Jones are trying to decide who blinks first. About who's going to make the market and who's going to break the market. Like, it would just be nice to have that settled. Other sort of comings and goings. Sam Darnold came in, so we now have two number 3 picks out of the last 4 years in the draft, which is just silly. Where would the 49ers be without quarterback intrigue? Probably the biggest loss was DeMeco Ryans, and sort of wish him all the best. Was absolutely incredible as a defensive coordinator. So he's off to the Texans. Steve Wilkes has come in, and again, I kind of think that with this group, that probably the defensive coordinator at the 49ers is probably the best job in football. You kind of get to come in for 2 years, do a little bit, and then you get to go and be a head coach somewhere else. So yeah, like outgoings, I think we lost a lot of the 49ers are probably a team, probably got the most superstars, in positions. What we lost was a lot of the kind of the second tier. So your Mike McGlinchey's, your Omenaus, Aziz Al-Shar, like these were really good players that came in and did a really good job. The biggest challenge the 49ers have is staying healthy. So we've lost a lot of really good players, and when we come on to the draft, because of the Lance trade, we've been kind of trying to sprinkle that, 5th and 6th and 7th round magic, which we've done a really good job of. But yeah, we're kind of quite reliant upon that. The other sort of notable departee was Robbie Gould, the kicker. He's still a free agent. There was a lot of talk that he would end up at the Bears, but essentially like a metronome from 55 yards, nothing longer. But never missed a kick in postseason. So yeah, like we're in win now mode. And I think people are starting to recognise that we probably come on later on to, I think, some of the decisions that will come next close season. We really do only have 1 or 2 years left. There's too many guys needing paid. Bosa's probably the last one that we can afford to pay. When we get back around next, and we'll come on to Brandon Ayuk in a second, there's going to be some decisions to be made. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the minute.
I think the win now thing that you mentioned there, that was evident when last season, during the season, he's picked up Christian McCaffrey, and that's just elevated your team. They've always had an incredible defence. Shanahan's just wonderful at that. But the fact that you've got a running back who's also so capable at catching the ball as well, and you've also got Deebo Samuel, who's a wide receiver who's so capable at running with the ball. It's a positionless game of football that you are playing. It really just keeps teams on their toes, having to second guess you. So massive season for you, and as you say, win now.
Yeah, and you know, with McCaffrey, it was a real sort of you know, aside from the Chiefs game, which was an absolute blowout, where he was, I think he'd arrived sort of 3 days before the game. You look at the stats before and the stats afterwards. He was absolutely incredible, and if he can stay fit, I think potentially he's kind of the template for what running backs need to become. Yeah, it's not just enough just to run into a guy. You actually need to be, you know, Shanahan talks about it when McCaffrey's lining up. It doesn't matter whether he's going to run. He's immediately got 2 defenders on him. So, you know, he is seeing him for a full season will be pretty incredible.
And I think as well, you know, when you have players like him, you know, it does increase their worth, especially now with running backs market not being so good, and you know, a lot of running backs feeling that they're not getting paid as they should be. When you have a player that can do multiple things, then suddenly their worth does increase, and you know, he'll definitely be getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fitness dependent, but McCaffrey will have his eye on 1,000 season, that will be the benchmark that he'll go for, and you know, we'll come on to who's gonna turn up, but yeah, like, so, you know, having him kind of there for camp and things like that has been huge.
With all the coaches that get poached from the 49ers, you're always get plenty of picks in the draft. Was there anyone that really stood out for you that you are really excited to see this season coming?
So there's probably 3 or 4. Like, I think, as I say, it's mainly been picking up kind of squad players, but we Jair Brown, the safety, potentially sort of inside nickelback, really good feedback on him. And then later in the draft, Ronnie Bell, the wide receiver, and Jalen Graham, the linebacker. Both, again, although it was a sort of blowout game against the Raiders, both showed that there was potentially some of that 7th round pick magic coming from the 49ers. I think probably Jake Moody. Nobody likes to talk about kickers, but you know, it's like, so, you know, everybody was very skeptical about how high we drafted him. But if you like, I think the Patriots picked 4 later, took a kicker at that point. So we kind of had to take him when we did. He's looked great in practice and then missed 2 field goals against the Raiders on Saturday. So that they don't count for the stats, but you know, if you wanted to ramp up the pressure on yourself as a rookie kicker, that's kind of the way to do it. So yeah, he'll be hoping for a little chip shot on Sunday night against the Broncos, just to.
That's it. You need just a wee tap just to get you settled and looking forward to how it's going to go in the team. Who do you think is going to absolutely crush it though for the Niners this season? Who's going to be your star man?
So, I think you've got a sort of battle developing. Deebo has turned back up, and everybody's like, "Fuck." And this guy's shredded, like he is absolutely ripped. There's stories that he kept sending Shanahan like photos with his top off.
That's what I was going to say. Shanahan saying he was constantly getting photos of Deebo with his shirt off in a press conference.
So Debo admits that him sitting out last summer didn't help him. Next season, Brandon Ayuk, we're going to be on his 5th-year option, and I think we're going to have a decision because I think BA is going to have a big season, and I think it's going to. I think we're going to end up having to pick, pay one and trade one. But I think they can kind of push each other. So for me, it's Debo and BA, and of course McCaffrey as well. We just got so many superstars, except the most important position in the whole game, where we've got Mr. Irrelevant, and you know,
I was going to say, surely for the 49ers MVP this season, it's got to be the quarterback room, because it just seems to be, no matter who goes in, they seem to play. And, well, the one concern's probably whether Sam Darnold sees the Alcatraz ghosts coming his way. But other than that, he's probably looking okay, no matter who it is.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
in the last season, when they had, they finished with 10 wins in a row. I mean, who could have seen that coming? It was just.
I think there's a real synergy between Shanahan and Purdy. Whatever Shanahan and Garoppolo never had, he's just because he cut Nate Sudfeld for Purdy to make him the 3rd choice quarterback. I think he knew there was something there. Trey Lance is a bust. I think he's going to go down as probably the worst, one of the worst trade-ups of all time. Which, I can understand the logic at the time. The only way to keep this many superstars is to sacrifice something, and Shanahan. There's an arrogance with him, but it's almost like, well, I don't need a quarterback. I'm the quarterback. It's like,
that's
you're
your
not throwing the shot, the ball.
Yeah, MVP is the system. That's exactly it. That's what's going to win it for you.
I think Kittle stepped up as well when Purdy came in. So I think him staying fit is going to be a big piece for Brock Purdy, because they seem to really utilise him. Whereas I think before Purdy came in, I don't think you've seen a lot of Kittle. So I think he's got a good connection between the two of them, which I don't know about quarterbacks and tight ends synergies.
Well, exactly. I mean, I love George Kittle, and if the running back union, they need to do what Kittle did with the tight end was sort of an
tight end
national tight end. Like just go and do it. But with the surgery that Purdy had, like when the pitchers get the Tommy John, he didn't get Tommy John surgery, but they tend to be able to throw faster afterwards. So there's kind of Purdy could be better, but we'll see. It's high tariff, and as I say, if it's not this season or next season, then we're going to be in tear it down and start again, which is going to suck.
So just checking that with Debo for your crush it player.
I think it was both.
It was all of them.
It was all of them.
It was Debo versus BA. That was my.
You picking one? I'm going to force you to pick one. You need to choose a favourite kid here.
I'll take Debo. That's fine.
I'll see if I can hack into Shanahan's phone and get a couple of the pictures to superimpose into a graphic for later. Now, the highlight of the whole series of these season previews, I have to say, is all I've been working up to is to get Cy on to wax lyrical about the Seattle Seahawks. Cy, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, first of all, my condolences to family, friends, everyone who knew former running back Alex Collins. He passed away this week. It was a real blow. He was an energetic guy. Irish dancing at the touchdown, after the touchdowns. It was really sad to hear, and also just 28, right? So there's just so much more potential there. With the Seahawks, I'm just feeling good. One, I want to thank the Broncos for all the picks they've given us in the last two drafts. I mean, I'm just amazed that they could pull off something like that, and they did. And now it's kind of the feeling of, will other teams be willing to do any trades with us? No one wants to be, sitting there on a poster. And I think that there were some changes in the Broncos management, execs, etc. I think some folks lost some jobs in the process, but the way it's looking, I mean, a story is being written here. At the end of the 21 season, Russell Wilson got traded. And everyone thought, well, that's us, we're done. And then, a short time, then Bobby Wagner is gone, and suddenly you're thinking, well, who's left on this team? Surprisingly, last season we ended 9-8. Geno Smith stepped up in a mega way. He surprised everyone. There are still people who believe that Drew Lock, who's the QB we got from the Broncos, should get a shot, but he didn't play a snap last season. Geno was in there the whole way, and yeah, I felt great. I was able to travel to Munich to watch the Seahawks Bucks game. I was seated 2 rows behind the Seahawks bench, so I got a good look at these guys. Got a few waves in there as well. And yeah, the highlight was I got a pair of DK Metcalf's gloves in that game as well. So that was the ultimate moment for me. So I mean,
is that one that the listeners can win after this? Will be a wee competition. Yeah, we go for it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll need to arrange security just around that. But I'm loving the way this team is quite young. There's so many draft picks that have come in, and last season especially. If you look at the O-line, right tackle, left tackle, rookies coming in and suddenly trying to get in there and just hold things together. It was really nice to see. I mean, defensively, really struggled last season. Couldn't stop the run. You look at Josh Jacobs and what he did to us. I don't think anyone can ever forget. But that's just one example of many. So it was very clear that even though we ended 9-8, we had to make some major changes to avoid falling into that again. So it's interesting, some of the changes that have gone in there. Some of the players that have been released. We had Al Woods, nose tackle. He's released, and by the way, quite a few of the players that left have signed up elsewhere, right? So Al Woods, our former nose tackle, is now with the Jets. And then we've also got one of our defensive ends, Quinton Jefferson. He's joined the Jets as well. Puna Ford, great energy, defensive tackle. He moved on as well. Joined the Bills, right? So it's a kind of, when you see some of these players going and you're thinking to yourself, the curiosity of, are they gonna be better where they go, or are they just gonna fade? And it's always in the back of my mind. For me, the surprise player that we kind of released, and I thought, why did you do that? Ryan Neal, one of our safeties, he stepped up in a mega way. You'll remember that we got Jamal Adams, through a trade that, so far really kind of doesn't seem to have worked well for us. He's been injured most of the past couple of seasons. So to see Ryan Neal go was like, guys, maybe you could have done something. But again, he's off to Tampa. So it's nice that although players have moved on, they are actually going somewhere and continue working on their craft. So as far as offensively, Rashad Penny, who was our running back, he's now at Philadelphia. I mean, he's always like the kind of guy who every time he gets a ball, I just get off my seat and just go crazy because he's just so powerful, explosive for a guy his size. It's just a shame that every season he just had some season-ending injury, and we never quite got to see his full potential. But again, we luckily last year we did draft Ken Walker, and he's been great so far for us, and we hope to continue seeing that momentum building up. But also, I think the putting aside big names players or whatever, I think it was really nice to see Bobby Wagner come back. The fans really called out for it. The 12s are, they're just saying, "Hey, Bobby, just come home," and just to see that happening, I thought that was really great. And he's a leader. He's just got. He's like just the most humble guy. When he's speaking around, of course, when the helmet comes on, it's a different story. So we're expecting to see changes defensively, thanks to him and some of the other signings we've had.
I think that's the big thing, is that you need that bit of leadership at the back there, and certainly Wagner coming back there. What about the draft? Because you've done really well in the draft last year. The young players that came in really stepped up. Bullen was one that I was impressed with, especially towards the end of the season with that pick that he got. What of the players that we signed are you most looking forward to? One that's certainly exciting me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he fits into the attack for us.
Yeah, so I'll say fifth draft pick was quite scary, right? You don't want to get this wrong. You want to absolutely get somebody who will have an impact. A lot of mock drafts, etc., had someone, Jalen Carter or whoever was going to fall to that position, and we picked a corner, Devon Witherspoon. I don't think anybody saw that coming. It was quite a surprise. But the team believes that this guy could have an impact on the opposite side of Tariq Woolen, who's our corner from last year in the draft. We've also got a new receiver, right? Jackson Smith, Jigba. He's come out of Ohio State, and so far in training camp and everything, it seems to be gelling really well. And he might just be the third receiver that we've been looking for a while. Besides our first two, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So he might just be that guy who steps in there. So really excited to see what they can do. We picked up some running backs as well, linebackers. But the one player that I'm really keen to see, who I believe will probably be the center of our O-line in the future, is Olu Oluwatimi. He was center of Michigan, and he was great. He got he was just outstanding. And even in the preseason game they had last week, seeing him in action gave me that kind of feeling that this guy is working towards something. So I can see a bit of a battle there between him and Evan Brown on who's going to be the starting center, over time. But it's just great to see that all these new picks and folks joining us. And then we've got the undrafted picks as well, right? So we've got, for example, in a preseason game, Jake Bobo, wide receiver, just came out of nowhere. He's got a touchdown, he's doing things, and everyone's like, hey, maybe we need to sign this guy, right? And so, it'd be really great to see if we can keep him and see what he can do for us.
Great pick up, Jackson Smith and Jigba. someone that's, I think he's the spot he's going to play in. Really impressed by him so far, the wee bits that I've seen, and I think he just, like you say, just fits perfectly into this team with what we've got already with DK and Tiger Lockett. So I'm really excited with him. And it was funny to see so many people absolutely gutted that the Seahawks drafted Zach Charbonnet, because Ken Walker, the third fantasy stock, just plummeted big time. This guy seems as if he's going to be able to share the load with them. He's a powerful runner, slightly different from KWC. So I think it's a shrewd investment by the team, taken quite high as well in the draft. So I really look forward to this. Is gradually building, and it seems to be. I don't know about you, but I thought we were going to be a few years of pain, but thankfully Russell Wilson is just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely, and speaking of Zach Charbonnet, our running back room is basically overhauled, right? I think DJ Dallas is the only running back that's still there. That's kind of been through the last few seasons, and it's just exciting to look forward to what these guys can do. I mean, I know the running back position can be quite injury prone at times, and we've got a young running back core in there, but hopefully they'll be able to do what it takes to play their part and be part of the success. So really hopeful of that impact. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great season. I think we've got week 12, we've got the 49ers in, and then week 14. So it's going to be
that's
a couple of weeks.
It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving as well. It's a hell of a game. 49ers have got 2 Thursday games, which is it's pretty shitty. Like in terms of the sort of the short weeks that accompany it. But I mean that is it's absolutely huge. And yeah, it's almost a double header. So you've got almost play each other like 12 and 14.
Yeah, and I think with the 49ers, this past season they completely swept us. They were just better than us in many aspects, and we're really keen to get back in there and give them a run, right? Of course, if you ask me who's gonna win, I'll tell you it's the Seahawks. But we'll get to that time and see what happens, right?
No, I don't think any Niners fan will be underestimating the Seahawks. I think there's probably a big question about Geno and can he keep up that level of production, because he did kind of start to regress a little bit. So that's probably a bit of a question mark in the quarterback room. But when you think about when we talk about the Rams and the Cardinals and how long they're going to be in the wilderness, and God, I mean, think 3 years ago the NFC West was just so stacked, and actually for the Seahawks to be back in a position where you're genuinely talking about them as contenders again, it's massive. And I think they drafted really well, and yeah, absolutely nobody's going to be underestimating them.
Yeah, it'll be definitely consistency has always been one of those question marks that hangs over anytime Geno Smith is mentioned. And also concerns about him being a backup for so long, and whether he can really be that QB1 that will just be a no-brainer. I think it's also good that he's got Drew Lock around, because then it's constant battle, right? They both won that number one spot, and so having that having both of them in there really then helps to keep both of them competing, both on game days and also in practice, right?
Fantastic. Sai, for you, this season there's plenty to choose from, but who's going to rise above the rest of the team and really crush it for you?
I tell you what, I really want to see what Jackson Smith Jigba can do. I think we really needed that third receiver that we just know he'll be out there and he'll be doing things. I'm really hopeful that he'll be an impact player for us. But I'm also keen to see if Jamal Adams can really come back and show, why we traded, why we got him in. And he's got a lot to prove. He's hungry. He's seen all the critics, and hopefully that's just helped to motivate him to come back and just turn things around.
Fantastic. Guys, that's brilliant. We have covered the 3 of the 4 teams from the NFC West. Let's go for our predictions then. What's the standings going to be? So let's work for the bottom up then. We'll go for the easy one. Arizona Cardinals. They're going to have a shocker, so we'll get them in at 4. Okay?
Number 1 pick for the season, for the next year's draft.
Number 1 pick. The Lovely Smith Cup. So Cardinals at 4. Who are we taking at 3 then? Rams still rebuilding, you think?
I think it's going to be the Rams.
I can't see. They, I was just reading an article saying that arguably going to have one of the worst defenses in the whole of the NFL. Like it's brutal. As I said, that we were talking before. I don't think McVay sees this out. I think he'll hand it across to somebody else just to get the rebuild. I think you know what? When you go big and you aim for a ring and you mortgage the future, they won. Like you can't argue. Like you can argue against it. They're plastic. McVay's a dick. Like all that stuff. But Stan Kroenke's a crew. Yeah, all of the stuff. Yeah.
You were doing so well as well. I
was doing so well.
McVay maybe not want to tarnish his reputation as well. He take that wee couple of years out doing some commentary and punditry.
The thing is, he's got a kid in the wee now as well, so does he really need the stress of being a head coach? The Amazon gig will be a cushy number. He'll be well paid.
Maybe he's want to be away. go with the team away for a week and get a bit of peace.
Aye.
Right, so at 4 we've got the
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. At 3 we've got LA Rams. Ooh, who are we going for 2?
So
if you ask me, I know the answer, but maybe Ian might have a different opinion.
I think it will be the Seahawks, but I think it will be a lot closer. I don't think the Seahawks are going to have a 9-8 season. I think both the 49ers and the Seahawks could end up with good winning records. I think the 49ers will just shade it. But like as I say, nobody's underestimating the Seahawks, and hopefully we both pick up the 4 victories against the Rams and the Cardinals, and then like basically a sort of 2-week shootout.
Yeah, Studs, you're the impartial on this one. I'm going to let you make the decision here.
I'm going to be less diplomatic than Ian probably and say I still think the 49ers overall. I think offensively and probably more so on defense, I think the 49ers are still ahead of the Seahawks. I think Sai, as much as I love the wee name tag in there with the hashtag 12 in there, I think he's kind of touched on it with the young defense. Jamal Adams not living up to his potential. I think that's probably where the Seahawks kind of still fall down a little for me. And it's whether Geno can repeat for last year is probably the kind of question mark, which is probably the one place where I do see a kind of similarity with the 49ers. It's can Purdy reproduce what he done last year? Yeah, probably asking the same question of Geno, but I think defensively, 49ers are so strong. And if they get a lead, that defence can just put its ear back and get after the quarterback. So I think Seahawks, number 2 for me.
I do agree with that. I think it's the defence of the 49ers really takes precedence there. They kind of take over. Also the tight end room. I like Noah Fant, but Noah Fant, Will Disley, we've not really shining there, whereas you've got Kittle and the 49ers, another really good weapon. I think it could maybe just edge it that way. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
Well, yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you very much, Si.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Yeah, I'm really keen to see what we can do. Just start the season, get through the preseason first and see these younger guys getting a shot. But we'll be keeping up with you guys, and maybe at the end of the season we can replay this session and see how right or wrong we were with the predictions. Right?
Don't you worry. Listen, if you're right, I will be clipping this and I'll be sending it to Ian every day. So thank you very much, Si. Ian Dugan, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You can feel that it's getting late at night. Ian and I have actually had to speak in hushed tones for the past hour so that our wives don't bash at us as we get out of here. So the quietest I've heard them. Thank you again. Hopefully get you back on again soon.
Lovely job. Thank you.
Studs, thank you very much, my friend. We'll get the crew will be back. I think we've got one more preview to do next week, and then we'll be getting ready for the season opener. Thanks very much for listening. We will be back with you later on this week on Wednesday. You should have it in your podcast feeds for Thursday morning, and the crew will see you through. Thanks very much.
See you guys.